One of my favorite movies is The Shawshank Redemption. It's based on a novella by, of all people, Stephen King. Stephen King is most famous for his horror stories, but many of his stories have nothing whatsoever to do with horror. Shawshank Redemption is one such story, and it is all about hope, which is the focus for today. Hello, I'm Stuart Baskin, pastor of First Presbyterian Church of Tyler, Texas. If you've never seen the movie or read the novella, it concerns two convicts in prison for murder, one of whom is actually innocent. They develop an unlikely friendship and become constant companions. However, they have two very different ways of viewing the world. One of them, Red, is wise to the ways of the world and a bit cynical. The other, Andy, is more naive and maintains a sense of hope for the future throughout the story, even when he suffers beatings at the hands of other inmates and stints in solitary confinement at the hands of the warden. After one stint in solitary, Andy returns to sit at the lunch table with Red and their friends. Andy says it's been easy time because he had music in his head and in his heart, and that the warden could never take that away from him. Red begins to look suspicious and asks him what he's talking about. Andy says, "Hope." "Hope," spits Red. "Let me tell you something, my friend. Hope is a dangerous thing. Hope can drive a man insane." Much later in the movie, Andy pulls off a daring escape. But before he does, he tells Red that if he ever gets out, he's to find a tree in a particular hayfield outside a little town in Maine. He tells him to look under the rocks next to the tree to find a gift. When Red is finally paroled, he goes to that hayfield, finds the gift, and opens it to find enough money to get him a bus ticket to meet Andy in Mexico, and a note. In the note, Andy says, "Hope is a good thing, maybe the best of things, and no good thing ever dies." Today's reading from Romans is all about hope, Abraham's hope. It is part of Paul's extended argument about grace and faith. Paul says, for this reason it depends on faith, in order that the promise may rest on grace and be guaranteed to all his descendants, and not only to the adherents of the law, but also to those who share the faith of Abraham. For he is the father of all of us. As it is written, "I have made you the father of many nations," in the presence of the God in whom he believed, who gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist. Hoping against hope, he believed that he would become the father of many nations, according to what was said, "So numerous shall your descendants be." He did not weaken in faith when he considered his own body, which was already as good as dead, for he was about 100 years old, or when he considered the barrenness of Sarah's womb. No distrust made him waver concerning the promise of God, but he grew strong in his faith, and he gave glory to God, being fully convinced that God was able to do what he had promised. Therefore, his faith was reckoned to him as righteousness. Hoping against hope. Red couldn't dare to have hope because he couldn't see possibilities beyond the prison walls, and I don't mean the physical walls, but the walls he placed around life's possibilities. Andy, on the other hand, could nurture hope because he believed in possibilities where they seemed impossible. So it is with Abraham. From a human perspective, there should have been no possible way for God's promise of descendants to come true, but Abraham continued to hope, to believe God's promises. For hope is a form of faith, and faith is what is reckoned as righteousness. You and I are called upon to hope for possibilities where we see only barriers. I don't mean hope just for the good things in our own lives. I mean hope for the fulfillment of God's vision of peace and shalom in this world. That's what Abraham's hope was all about, and it should be our hope as well. The Shawshank Redemption ends with Red on a bus to Mexico. As we watch the bus drive down the road, we hear Red say, "I find I'm so excited I can barely sit still or hold a thought in my head." I think it's only the excitement a free man can feel. A free man at the start of a long journey whose conclusion is uncertain. I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope. And now may God continue to bless you and keep you in all that you do this day and in all the days ahead.